I find it necessary today to give you a more detailed description of the outward appearance of the Yanihis. I think it necessary for many reasons. I have already told you of their immense stature. The men, in height, varied from 8 to 10 of your earth feet, and the women from 6 to 8. This, of course, was after the separation of the duple-souled, androgynous, beings. The hair, in every case, was quite fair. The eyes, very wide apart, were gray flecked with brown, blue or violet. The main difference between yours and theirs lay in the pattern of the iris. Yours have outward slanting rays from the pupil. Theirs was an arrangement of half circles overlapping each other like the scales of a fish. The nose was very large, for the purpose of inhalation of the cosmic essences. The mouth was large too, and rather full of lip. The jawbone was firmly square, though not solid as yours, and where you have teeth they had instead a little ridge of substance which looked like tiny white ferns which constantly moved gently, for the purpose of filtering the possible impurities inhaled with the deep breaths. Their breathing was slow. They breathed as you do when you inhale deeply. The shoulders were very broad, the body tapering to the waist. There were no sex organs. The hands and feet had 12 fingers, and toes, and, make no mistake, the hands of these beings were never used for the purpose of walking, as do the apes. The skin was soft, paler than yours. The men were clothed, in every case, in a soft silken white garment, and the women similarly, but in blue. They wove these materials themselves, from dried strands of the long petals of a flower which grew then, the forerunner of your flax. These flowers were of great size, each petal measured, in your terms, 2 yards long. The dried strands presented the appearance of soft silk. I have mentioned once before that no manual labor was used. By this I inferred hard work, as you know it, digging and other labors causing sweat of the brow. The Yanihis made a great many things, far more than I can enumerate, but the labor was gentle, quiet, and imbued with such essences of love that it never became a task. Now I wish to return to the last script, to a further account of the daily life of the initiates. Each day, then, was begun with a great meeting in the temple, with the service, as you call it, of the worship of dawn. The great central circle of the temple was crowded with these dear ones. I will simplify things by giving the account of all that happened in my own country, Drunhia. The meeting of praise over, these first earth people slowly wended their way to the College of the Initiates and assembled in the great hall there. Then, by a process of thought, they were directly put in touch with, in my case, the FACNIC ray of power. For 12 hours they concentrated on this, the central portion of the silent initiation, the 2 middle hours of the 12 being passed in a state of trance. You will understand that these inhabitants of the first earth age were the direct forebears of all your present, and past, mediums. The trance state was a deliberate training, by them, and voluntarily undertaken by them for this purpose. Footnote: cosmology, or the facts of God's creation, could only be given through trance mediumship, Yanihian trance and solar trance because these are upon the highest spirit vibration, and the personality of the medium is removed by high spirit. Inspirational trance is incomplete, therefore subject to grave error when dealing with the highest dimensional facts of pure spirit. You will realize by now that the Yanihis knew of the worlds and races to come. After the silent 12 hours, with a short interval, the second 12 hours of speech began. This period was mine. I spoke to them every day for that 12 hours. Through me, they gradually learned how to contact and use the Josiam ray of Atrum, how to manipulate the Krisnath ray of nature growth, how, very important, to use the Theta ray of birth. You will know that these men and women were to be the progenitors of the entire collection of races on this planet. Footnote: with the exception of the Lemanian races and those who came from other planets. After the separation of the duple souls, they formed families, much as you do, but without any sex instincts. At the birth of each new soul by the breath, the tiny plasm which resulted from this fusion of the male and female soul, was placed by me in the square chamber of the Theta ray. This place, like a hall of great transparency, was kept at a very high thermal condition. It was, in fact, a process of incubation. For 12 of your earth months the ray was concentrated in this chamber, and, at the end, the tiny new soul of the child, footnote, about the same size as a normal child born in the human body of earth, was ready to issue forth, after a baptism in a diluted form of the Atrum ray. This caused a protective sheath to form over it. And so the birth of the race continued, only semi-solid still, you must remember, and thus it was most essential for these initiates to have an intimate knowledge of the workings of this Theta ray. The 24 hours of learning over, with the deepening twilight they passed to their dwellings for discussion, and for the necessary work upon their own immediate requirements. Can you now understand why I beg of you to try always to use that which is made by hand, and not machinery? I know that in your present state of evolution this cannot altogether be, but it is lamentable. These semi-solid earth beings made use of an under race to help in their daily tasks. I have not mentioned these before to you. Know then, that under the earth's surface, about 200 of your Miles into the core direction of the Earth planet, there dwells a race, nebulous in formation, of workers. They are a very low type of entity, but have no enmity for those on the Earth's surface. Do you for one instant imagine that all the substances and chemicals in your tiny Earth are by chance? These chemists, I will call them, are those who form them, under the direct command of the mineral and metallurgy masters who have their habitation on that planet which you call Jupiter. Its true name is Kooloisht. The Yanihis drew upon the services of this race for much. Occasionally a few, but seldom, come to the Earth's surface. It is then that they become mischievous, though not in malice. Your race sometimes calls them poltergeists. Never abuse them, think only love for them. Thus daily, the great accumulation of knowledge progressed. The study of the 12 cosmic rays formed the greater part of the life of all the initiates in every country. You will fully realize that the intense study of the radium ray, a troom, brought a certain amount of danger with it, if carelessly handled. Therefore this ray from the first solar plane was always the last of the period of initiation to be dealt with. I find it difficult to explain very fully the collegiate life of this first race. It took sometimes 400 of your years before the process of knowledge was complete. You must remember that this race did not age as does yours now. Their brains and bodies remained after a period of childhood which lasted for 40 years. They remained, I repeat, quite unchanged until the moment of withdrawal or, as you call it, death. The children did not play with curious toys as do yours. From the moment they could crawl, their life was entirely spent in the great gardens of Yanini. It was these tiny ones who cared for the perfumes of the flowers. They, the perfumes, passed through the baby fingers to each newly born flower, by means of the 34th ray of scent, a part of the theta ray of birth. Now can you see why your Earth babies always smell so sweet? Next meeting I shall begin to speak of the great temple life, the pivot of all the Yanihian age. Amni Doc, Kahan Doc. Mikaal.